Before we cross into the unknown, leave a hello in the comments. Even the smallest signal can ripple across galaxies, guiding fellow wanderers to this tale. Let me know you're out there. A voice among the stars, listening with me beyond the veil. Engines roared as the human fleet pierced the void, leaving trails of silver fire in the dark. Admiral Kell's hands trembled on the console, not from fear, but from the weight of inevitability. The alien emissary's betrayal had been precise. Civilian colonies annihilated overnight. "We've been given no choice," Kell murmured, voice cold. "They forced our hand." The weapon, code-named Shatterlink, was primed. A tool born from humanity's understanding that the greatest strength of the Zinthari, their shared consciousness, could become their undoing. On the observation deck, the captain's eyes reflected the distant stars. "Admiral, they approach in perfect formation, like a single organism." Kell's jaw tightened. Humanity had turned its advantage into art. Infiltration of a neural network designed to control billions across space. As the launch sequence began, he whispered a grim acknowledgement. This battle would teach the universe a cold truth. When weakness is revealed, dominance follows. Sensors screamed as the weapon ignited, sending tendrils of corruptive signals into the alien network. Zinthari vessels faltered mid-flight, their perfect coordination unraveling. Commander Lin watched in awe and horror. "They're turning on each other," she said, gripping the console as transmissions became incoherent, a chorus of panic replacing their disciplined commands. Humanity's fleets, trained for precision, pivoted seamlessly, exploiting the cracks in the enemy's unity. From the flagship, Kell observed entire alien squadrons collide in midspace, their psychic link twisting into chaos. "They believed unity was invincible," he said, voice flat. "We showed them the calculus of weakness." Each Zinthari mind scrambled, unable to distinguish friend from foe, a swarm collapsing under its own hubris. Humanity had learned to weaponize insight, turning the enemy's perfection into their gravest flaw. Explosions rippled through the void as alien cruisers rammed one another, unsure whether the targeting commands came from kin or corruption. Captain Vela barked orders, redirecting human squadrons to exploit gaps in the chaos. On the bridge, screens flickered with distress signals. The Shatterlink pulses were subtle yet devastating, like a virus in the bloodstream of a god. Lin's fingers danced over the controls, keeping pace with the madness spiraling beyond comprehension. Kell's voice cut through the tension. "Remember, this is not cruelty. It's strategy." The Zinthari had weaponized their collective mind for centuries, now reduced to panic and confusion. Humanity had merely shown them that insight, patience, and understanding of the mind could topple empires. "Do not let empathy blind you," Kell whispered, watching the first alien fleet fragment burn into drifting debris. The war had shifted in mere moments. A secondary wave of alien reinforcements materialized, but the psychic contagion spread faster than they could react. Vela's squadron cut a path through the staggering vessels, each strike precise. "They can't coordinate," she muttered, almost to herself, marveling at the surreal spectacle. The void was alive with erratic energy, a galaxy-sized chessboard where every move of the humans exploited the enemy's unraveling mind. Kell allowed a faint, grim smile. "They built their strength on consensus," he said, "but consensus is fragile under corruption." He studied the data feed, watching psychic echoes of Zinthari's thoughts splinter like shattered glass. Humanity had discovered a weapon beyond technology, an understanding of cognition itself. The lesson was ruthless but true. Knowing your enemy's mind could render them defenseless. Humanity was no longer just surviving. They were orchestrating dominance. The battlefield became a kaleidoscope of motion and fire. Alien command vessels spiraled in suicidal maneuvers, their link fractured, while human carriers exploited every opening. Lin's fingers hovered over the neural dampeners, guiding pulses into the enemy mind. "It's working," she breathed, noting the eerie symmetry of destruction. Entire fleets that once moved as one now attacked themselves, unable to reconcile the alien psychic feedback looping endlessly. Kale stared into the chaos through the viewport, eyes reflecting the inferno of confusion. "Humanity learned the truth," he said softly. "Strength is not just force. It is the knowledge of weakness, the patience to exploit it, and the will to act." Around him, his crew executed maneuvers with calculated precision, riding the wave of the enemy's collapse. The Zinthari had been masters of unity. Humanity had turned that gift into their gravest vulnerability. The surviving Zinthari vessels scattered into jagged formations, no longer synchronized. Kale leaned over the tactical display, tracing the erratic paths. "Their network is fragmented," he said. "Every vessel is an isolated mind, panicking." Human drones swooped in, scanning and neutralizing threats with cold efficiency. The void, once a theater of precision, had become a nightmare of disorder for the enemy. Commander Lin tapped a control pad, sending targeted pulses into the alien psychic lattice. Sparks of corrupted thought erupted across enemy screens, distorting communication. "They think they're strategizing," she murmured, voice tight with awe. "But every thought is poisoned." Humanity had weaponized intellect itself, turning comprehension into chaos. Kale's eyes narrowed. The lesson was clear. Knowledge of an enemy's mind could be more lethal than any missile. The first of the alien capital ships hesitated, then veered violently into the void. Human fighters streaked past, exploiting the gaps in their shattered formations. Vela's voice came over the comms. "Every strike is hitting, Admiral. They're falling apart." Even the most disciplined Zinthari captains, bound by centuries of hive coordination, now acted on fragmented, corrupted impulses. Kale's hand hovered over the neural dampeners, adjusting frequencies to maximize disruption. "We're not killing them," he said, almost to himself. "We're making them kill themselves." He watched as one fleet collided mid-space, the psychic link turning strategy into madness. Humanity had learned to exploit cognitive architecture, a weapon invisible yet irresistible. The stars were no longer empty. They were a theater of domination, earned through understanding rather than sheer force. An eerie silence followed the initial chaos, broken by sporadic distress calls. Lin squinted at the readouts. Dozens of alien vessels had become inert, their crews trapped in psychic loops. "It's like they've forgotten how to breathe," she said, voice trembling. Human engineers cheered quietly as drone squads swept in to disable what remained. The Shatterlink pulses continued, subtle, surgical, relentless. Kyle surveyed the aftermath from the bridge. "Look at them," he said, voice low. "Their unity was everything. Without it, they are nothing." He felt no triumph, only cold clarity. Humanity had turned an existential disadvantage into dominance by understanding the enemy's very essence. This was war redefined. Victory was a product of insight, patience, and the precision to exploit a flaw invisible to brute force. Explosions erupted in the distance as human squadrons carved through what remained of the alien fleet. Vela's pilots moved like a symphony, each strike perfectly timed to exploit fractured enemy movements. "They can't regroup," she reported. "Every attempt to communicate ends in chaos." The psychic virus had turned every strategy into error, every order into self-destruction. Kale's gaze swept the battlefield, noting the strange beauty in the destruction. "This is what we learned," he murmured. "A mind that seeks unity can be weaponized against itself." Humanity had studied the Zinthari for decades, observing, decoding, anticipating. Now the lesson was clear. Intelligence, properly applied, could topple even the most formidable adversary. The void belonged to those who understood it first. Human fleets advanced into the core of the alien armada. The Zinthari, once an unstoppable organism, were now disjointed fragments, lashing out blindly. Lin's hands danced over the controls, guiding pulses into the fractured network. Ships collided with each other, unsure if orders were real or corrupted whispers. Humanity moved with eerie precision, dancing through chaos like predators among confused prey. Kale allowed himself a measured nod. "This is not vengeance," he said, voice steady. "It's strategy perfected." He watched as the last coherent alien vessels faltered, their psychic cohesion shattered. Humanity had turned observation into weaponry, intellect into dominance. In the void, amidst fire and madness, the cold lesson was written in burning metal. Know your enemy, exploit their strength, and even the greatest unity becomes their undoing. Kale's flagship cut through the debris field. Alien vessels, once synchronized, now spiraled aimlessly, their energy cores flaring in uncontrolled bursts. Commander Lin adjusted the Shatterlink pulses, fine-tuning them to infiltrate the remaining fragments of the Zinthari network. "They're trying to fight," she muttered, eyes wide, "but it's like swimming against a tide of madness." Kale's voice was calm, almost clinical. "Every move they make is a mistake. Their unity was their weapon, and now it is their undoing." Across the void, human ships exploited gaps with surgical precision. Humanity had learned the cold art of turning intelligence into a weapon, transforming the enemy's greatest strength into their most lethal weakness. A distant explosion lit the void as a Zinthari dreadnought collided with its own escort. Vela's fighters streaked past, capitalizing on the confusion. "They can't tell friend from foe," she said, voice tense. The alien psychic link, once flawless, now vomited chaos into every vessel. Human pilots maneuvered through the fractured formation, their own synchronicity flawless, a stark contrast to the enemy's unraveling. Kale studied the battle feeds. "Observe and exploit," he whispered. Humanity's advantage was not firepower alone, but understanding the architecture of an alien mind. Every collapse was predictable, every panic a tool. He allowed no sentiment to cloud his judgment. The galaxy had offered a lesson in precision, and humanity had mastered it. The final wave of alien reinforcements entered the sector, but the Shatterlink pulses met them immediately, corrupting neural links before strategy could form. Lin's fingers flew over controls, directing psychic feedback into targeted nodes. "They can't coordinate at all," she reported, voice tight. Even the largest alien cruisers were drifting, unable to execute maneuvers. Kale's eyes scanned the chaos, noting the irony. The Zinthari had evolved for collective perfection, yet perfection had made them fragile. "They built their empire on consensus," he said softly. "Consensus is a cage if corrupted from within." Humanity's victory was not brute force, it was insight weaponized. In the void, every pulse of thought became a weapon, every misstep of the enemy a triumph of strategy. Explosions blossomed like deadly flowers as the disoriented alien fleets collided. Vela's voice crackled over the comms. "They're destroying themselves faster than we can engage." Human fighters wove through the wreckage, striking with precision. Each vessel that faltered was another testament to the subtlety of their strategy. Chaos, carefully nurtured, became dominance. Kale's lips were pressed in a thin line. "Remember this," he said to the bridge crew. "Strength is not in perfection. It is in perception, exploitation, and the patience to act when the moment comes." Humanity had weaponized understanding itself, and the lesson was cruelly efficient. Across the void, the Zinthari were learning a devastating truth. Their greatest strength had become their gravest weakness. The last coherent alien vessels drifted, their crews paralyzed by corrupted thoughts. Lin initiated the final pulse sequence, sending the neural disruption deep into every remaining node. Panic rippled outward like a contagion. "It's over," she whispered, almost afraid to speak the words aloud. The once mighty Zinthari were reduced to disoriented fragments, unable to mount resistance. Kale gazed at the fractured armada. voice cold and steady. Humanity learned the essential truth. To defeat a mind, first understand it, then exploit it. Around him, the fleet executed sweeping maneuvers with flawless timing. The battle was won not by numbers or firepower alone, but by insight, patience, and the ruthless calculus of strategy. In the void, humanity's dominance was absolute, and the lesson was written in psychic ruins. The remaining alien ships drifted, uncoordinated and vulnerable. Kale's flagship glided among them, a predator in a field of disoriented prey. "Every node is compromised," Lin said, voice tense but awed. The psychic lattice that once connected billions was now a fractured web, each vessel isolated in panic. Human drones moved in to secure the remnants, efficient and silent. Kale allowed himself a brief moment of grim reflection. "We did not destroy them with fire," he said. "We destroyed them with understanding." Every collapse, every misstep of the Zinthari had been anticipated. The void was a lesson in strategy. Intelligence is the ultimate weapon, and insight the sharpest edge. Humanity had turned cognition itself into dominance. Vela's squadron wove through the alien debris, striking only when necessary. "They're already tearing themselves apart," she reported. Fragments of psychic chatter echoed across the fleet, incoherent but laced with fear. The shatterlink pulses continued to ripple through the remnants, subtle but relentless, ensuring that coordination could never recover. Kale's eyes scanned the chaos on the tactical display. "Observe the lesson," he said quietly. "Unity is a strength, but only if uncorrupted. When it falters, even the mightiest can crumble." Around him, human crews executed maneuvers with flawless precision. The battlefield had become a theater of intellect and patience, a silent testament to the cold efficiency of strategy over brute force. The last Zinthari dreadnought drifted, systems flickering. Commander Lin initiated a containment protocol, guiding drones to disable weapons without unnecessary destruction. "They're like fish in a net," she muttered, awe-stricken. The alien network had collapsed completely. Every attempt to coordinate ended in confusion. Humanity's weapon was subtle, invisible, and absolute. Kale's voice was calm as he observed the final collapse. "They believed thought could unify them," he said, "but insight is more powerful than unity." Every misaligned decision, every fragmented signal had been exploited with precision. The galaxy bore witness to a new paradigm. Dominance achieved not through firepower alone, but through understanding, patience, and the ruthless application of intellect. Explosions erupted as the last pockets of alien resistance attempted to regroup. Vela's fighters glided past, targeting only critical systems, avoiding unnecessary carnage. "They can't mount a strategy," she reported. "Every thought they send is corrupted." Human fleets moved in perfect coordination, exploiting the gaps with surgical precision, a stark contrast to the enemy's chaos. Kale's expression was unreadable as he addressed the bridge. "This is the culmination of observation," he said. "We weaponized their mind, not their ships. Every collapse, every error was predicted. Humanity learned to exploit weakness where it exists, turning understanding into absolute dominance. In the void, we've rewritten the rules of warfare." One final time, as the remaining alien vessels flickered, powerless. Lin guided the last sequences of shatterlink pulses, ensuring no coherent psychic link remained. "It's complete," she whispered. Silence fell over the battlefield, punctuated only by the drifting wreckage of the once proud Zinthari fleet. Humanity's methodical strategy had unraveled an empire without unnecessarily annihilating life. Kale stood at the viewport, staring into the void. "Remember this," he said softly. "Dominance is not force. It is understanding, patience, and the willingness to act when insight reveals weakness." Around him, his crew moved with quiet efficiency. The galaxy had learned a cold truth. Knowledge of an enemy's mind was more lethal than any weapon, and humanity had mastered it completely. Softly, as Kale's flagship drifted through the remnants of the alien armada. Smoke and debris painted the void in ghostly trails. Commander Lin monitored the shattered psychic lattice, noting lingering distortions. "They're silent. Too silent," she murmured. Even the fragments of thought that once guided billions were now incoherent whispers, lost in self-generated panic. Kale's jaw tightened. "Silence is still a weapon," he said, voice low. "The Zinthari believed in unity. Now they have only isolation." Human drones swept through the wreckage, cataloging and securing alien vessels. Humanity's victory was not simply in destruction. It was in breaking the architecture of their civilization, leaving them unable to reorganize. Knowledge had become dominant. Vela's squadron moved through the debris, scanning for survivors. Alien pilots, stripped of psychic guidance, floated aimlessly. "Their instincts are fractured," she said, almost in disbelief. The void, once alive with coordinated alien maneuvers, now felt eerily empty. Humanity's fleets glided past the chaos like surgeons navigating delicate anatomy, careful and precise. Kale's fingers hovered over the console, sending subtle pulses to ensure the psychic corruption remained complete. "Even in survival, they are prisoners of their own minds," he remarked. Every thought, every attempted command looped back as dissonance. Humanity had learned a brutal principle. Understanding an enemy's cognition could dismantle empires without a single decisive explosion. Strategy had transcended firepower. Kale ordered fleets to secure the outer sectors. Alien settlements, previously controlled via psychic networks, were now isolated and leaderless. Lin directed drones to broadcast stabilizing pulses to prevent further collapse, while human engineers salvaged technology for study. "They can't recover from this," she said. "Everything they've built depends on their unity." Kale watched silently. "They mistook coordination for invincibility," he said. "We've shown them that insight is sharper than any weapon." The lesson of the battlefield extended beyond fleets and ships. It was a doctrine. Humanity had transformed observation into offense, patience into victory, and understanding into a weapon more decisive than any missile or cannon. Vela's communications pinged with fragmented alien signals, incoherent and desperate. "It's like hearing ghosts," she said. "Their fleet is gone, but echoes remain." Human squadrons methodically moved through sectors, cataloging debris, neutralizing rogue energy signatures, and stabilizing the remnants of Zinthari technology. Kale's voice was steady, almost cold. "Victory is measured not by what is destroyed, but by what cannot recover." Across the void, the Zinthari civilization teetered on collapse, their networked minds now a liability rather than a strength. Humanity had demonstrated a lesson older than war itself. The sharpest weapon is knowledge, and the deadliest strike is understanding your enemy better than they understand themselves. One final time, as the fleet regrouped, formation tight and disciplined. Lin monitored the void, noting the last flickers of alien resistance dissolving into incoherence. "They're finished," she whispered, awe and relief mingling in her voice. The Zinthari, once a collective monolith, were now a fractured civilization, scattered and leaderless. Kale turned from the viewport, voice measured. "The galaxy has seen the lesson," he said. "Unity without insight can be a cage. Strength can be weaponized against itself." Human crews moved with quiet precision, a reflection of their own disciplined minds. In the void, the echo of psychic collapse served as a testament. Dominance is earned through understanding, and humanity had claimed it completely. Kale's fleet established orbital control over the nearest Zinthari world. Human engineers deployed stabilization drones to prevent catastrophic planetary collapse. Commander Lin monitored the corrupted psychic network, its fragments flickering weakly like dying stars. "Even their cities are silent," she said. "Without guidance, civilization unravels quickly." Kale's eyes scanned the world below. "Observation is power," he murmured. Their strength was networked thought. Now it is isolation. Human scientists began studying alien systems, extracting knowledge from wrecked vessels. Humanity had turned insight into both weapon and prize, transforming the remnants of the Zinthari Empire into tools for understanding and dominance. Vela's squadron patrolled fractured orbital corridors, intercepting rogue alien vessels still attempting weak formations. Drones subdued them, avoiding unnecessary destruction. "They don't know who to follow," she reported. "Even their fleet commanders are lost." Human forces moved like a ghost, invisible yet in total control of every tactical variable. Kale leaned over the tactical console. "Leadership depends on perception, not rank," he said softly. "Without unity, they are meaningless." Humanity had weaponized comprehension itself. Understanding the Zinthari mind allowed them to manipulate outcomes without conventional firepower. The battle was over, but the war for dominance had evolved into something subtler, colder, and unassailable. Salvage crews sifted through alien wreckage. Lin oversaw the recovery of neural cores, their corrupted patterns a blueprint of what had once been a hive mind. "We can learn from this," she said, awe in her voice. "Not just how they think, but how they fail." Humanity's victory extended beyond survival. It was an education in intelligence and vulnerability. Kale's gaze was unwavering. "Knowledge is the ultimate weapon," he said. "We didn't destroy them. We dissected them." Across the void, human forces worked methodically, cataloging, studying, and securing alien assets. Every pulse, every fragment of thought was data. Every failure was insight. Humanity had transformed the battlefield into a laboratory of dominance. Kale ordered a comprehensive survey of the system. Rogue alien transmissions flickered weakly, corrupted echoes of former command. Vela's pilots intercepted signals, confirming that no coherent leadership remained. "They're ghosts," she said, "minds without cohesion." Human squads moved like predators, unseen but omnipresent, exploiting every weakness without firing a shot. Kale's voice carried calm authority. "Strength without insight is fragility," he said. "We've proven that understanding can replace destruction as the decisive tool of war." Humanity had mastered the delicate balance: influence over minds, control over systems, and dominance without unnecessary bloodshed. The lesson was clear, etched into the void. Knowledge is supremacy. The fleet gathered in formation above the largest Zinthari planet. Lin monitored neural residue, mapping corrupted pathways. "Even their remnants can't communicate," she reported. "Their civilization is frozen, paralyzed." Human drones descended to stabilize key systems, preventing further collapse, while crews studied every fragment of alien thought and technology. Kale stood at the viewport, voice low and measured. "We didn't merely win," he said. "We transformed weakness into dominance, observation into conquest. The galaxy has witnessed a new kind of warfare: victory without annihilation, strategy without brute force." Around him, the fleet moved as one, silent and disciplined, a reflection of humanity's own mastery over intellect and the fragile architecture of enemy thought. Kale's fleet descended toward the largest Zinthari city, now eerily silent. Lin's drones scanned the psychic remnants, mapping pathways of thought now frozen and disjointed. They had coordination, purpose. "Now it's gone," she said softly. The streets below were empty, a civilization suspended in the aftermath of cognitive collapse. Kale's voice was steady, almost reverent. "We didn't break them with bombs," he said. "We unraveled the mind that guided them." Scientists deployed probes into neural hubs, capturing corrupted patterns and converting them into usable intelligence. Humanity had transformed observation into conquest, and the once mighty Zinthari Empire now offered its secrets willingly to those who understood them. Vela's squadron patrolled orbital corridors, intercepting fragmented alien crafts still attempting weak coordination. Drones gently corralled the ships, ensuring no unnecessary destruction. "They're trying to regroup," she said, "but their minds are fractured beyond repair." Every misaligned movement served as proof of humanity's intellectual advantage. Kale leaned over the tactical console, studying lingering psychic residue. "Unity without insight is a cage," he said. "We've learned to unlock that cage, turning perception into control." Human forces moved with deliberate precision, exploiting weaknesses without a single misstep. The galaxy had seen a new kind of dominance, subtle, calculated, and absolute. Salvage crews began extracting neural cores from derelict vessels. Lynn monitored the readings, translating corrupted signals into patterns humans could understand. "Every error is a lesson," she murmured. "Every fractured thought teaches us how they succeeded and failed." Humanity's victory extended beyond the battlefield. It was a blueprint for understanding alien cognition. Kale observed silently. "Knowledge is more lethal than firepower," he said. Every corrupted neural network, every failed command loop, was now data in human hands. Across the void, drones secured the remnants of the alien armada, transforming chaos into order. Humanity had weaponized intellect itself, claiming dominion without unnecessary carnage. Kale ordered a full survey of the planetary system. Rogue Zinthari signals flickered weakly, unable to coordinate or communicate. Vela's squadron intercepted them, confirming the collapse of all command structures. "They are shells," she said quietly, "minds without purpose." The void, once a battlefield of precision and psychic unity, now lay open for human dominion. Kale's voice carried calm authority. "We have learned the ultimate lesson," he said. "Insight can replace destruction. Understanding can replace chaos." Human engineers stabilized key infrastructure while fleets maintained surveillance. The Zinthari were no longer an immediate threat. Their empire was dismantled from the inside out. Humanity had mastered not just war, but the mind itself. The fleet consolidated above the largest Zinthari stronghold. Lynn analyzed neural residue, mapping every corrupted pathway for study. "Even their leaders cannot think," she said. "Without their network, their civilization is frozen." Human drones began deploying systems to extract usable data from the ruins of alien thought, turning collapse into opportunity. Kale turned from the viewport, voice measured and cold. "We have transformed weakness into dominance," he said, "observation into conquest, patience into strategy." Around him, the fleet moved as one, disciplined and precise, a reflection of humanity's mastery of intellect over brute force. In the silent void, the remnants of the Zinthari civilization stood as a testament to the power of understanding, patience, and calculated dominance. Kale's fleet established orbital command over the inner Zinthari systems. Lynn monitored flickering psychic echoes, noting residual patterns of thought attempting coordination but failing. "They're trying, but they can't," she said quietly. Every fragmented signal reinforced the lesson. The hive mind was broken beyond repair. Kale's gaze remained fixed on the void. "Unity without insight is vulnerability," he said. Human engineers deployed stabilizing drones while analysts began decoding corrupted neural cores. The Zinthari's empire, once a testament to collective strength, was now an archive of failure. Humanity had converted collapse into dominance, turning observation into a decisive weapon. Vela's squadron moved through fractured orbital lanes, intercepting residual alien vessels drifting without purpose. Drones corralled them, ensuring no unnecessary destruction. "They're alive, but ineffective," she said. The void, once filled with precision strikes and psychic coordination, now belonged entirely to human hands. Kale studied the tactical display. "Leadership and cognition are weapons," he said softly. "When broken, they become liabilities." Every disrupted thought, every failed command loop was now data to be studied. Humanity had demonstrated that understanding an enemy's mind was more decisive than any salvo of missiles. Dominance was not just won, it was engineered. Salvage crews retrieved neural cores and damaged vessels from the orbital debris. Lynn translated corrupted psychic patterns into usable intelligence. "We're learning faster than they can recover," she said. The remains of the Zinthari Empire were now a laboratory of strategy, revealing secrets of their collective cognition and vulnerabilities. Kale's voice was calm, almost cold. "Knowledge is the sharpest blade," he said. Every misaligned thought and fractured signal was cataloged, stored, and analyzed. Across the void, humanity converted alien collapse into an actionable advantage. Victory had been won not by overwhelming force but through comprehension, patience, and the meticulous application of intellect. Kale ordered fleets to secure outer Zinthari colonies. Rogue transmissions flickered weakly, fragmented and incoherent. Vela's pilots intercepted and stabilized critical sectors. "Even their strongest minds can't organize," she reported. The human fleet moved as a singular entity, exploiting the absence of enemy cohesion with flawless precision. Kale's eyes scanned the system, noting the psychological collapse of the Zinthari. "Their greatest strength became their greatest weakness," he said. Human dominance was now undisputed, earned not through mass destruction, but through understanding and manipulation. In the void, insight had become the ultimate weapon, leaving the Zinthari helpless and humanity ascendant. Kale's flagship hovered above the central Zinthari capital. Lynn monitored neural echoes, noting the final vestiges of coordinated thought dissolving into incoherence. "They can no longer think as one," she said. Human crews deployed extraction systems to secure alien technology and preserve intelligence for study. Kale turned to the bridge crew, voice low and deliberate. "We've transformed observation into domination, patience into strategy, insight into conquest," he said. Across the void, human fleets moved with perfect discipline, a mirror of their mastery over intellect and the fragile architecture of alien thought. The lesson was clear. Understanding the mind is the ultimate path to supremacy. Kale's fleet moved through the last operational Zinthari sectors. Lynn monitored faint neural echoes flickering like dying embers. "They're awake, but scattered," she reported. Alien commanders drifted without cohesion, their psychic networks shattered. Every attempt at coordination ended in confusion, a testament to humanity's calculated disruption. Kale's eyes scanned the display. "Their unity was a weapon, and we turned it against them," he said softly. Human crews moved with surgical precision, stabilizing systems while extracting intelligence. Humanity had mastered the art of domination without destruction, transforming insight into control and leaving the Zinthari unable to recover. Vela's squadron patrolled orbital corridors, capturing stray alien vessels that wandered. Drones guided them into human custody. "They're functioning but ineffective," she said. The void, once a battlefield of precise alien coordination, now belonged entirely to human command. Every misaligned thought was a weaponized advantage. Kale leaned over the tactical console. "Knowledge is supremacy," he said. "We've converted their failure into our power." Across the galaxy, humanity was no longer just a survivor. It was an architect of dominance. Insight replaced brute force, and the void bore silent witness to a lesson older than war itself. Understanding is power. Salvage operations intensified. Lynn oversaw the extraction of neural cores, decoding corrupted signals into strategic intelligence. "Their civilization is unraveling," she noted. Every failure is a blueprint for our advantage. Human engineers moved like surgeons, careful not to destroy potential knowledge embedded in alien systems. Kale's gaze was unwavering. "Observation is more lethal than any weapon," he said. The fractured Zinthari network became a library of mistakes and insight, each fragment a stepping stone for humanity's expansion. The galaxy had learned a chilling truth. Understanding an enemy's mind is domination in its purest form. Kale ordered fleets to establish permanent orbital stations. Rogue Zinthari transmissions flickered weakly, failing to form any coherent signal. Vela's pilots intercepted and analyzed each fragment, cataloging failures with meticulous precision. "Even their leaders are trapped in their own networks," she reported. Human forces moved seamlessly, exploiting the absence of coordination. Kale's voice was calm, deliberate. "Their greatest asset was also their greatest vulnerability," he said. Humanity had transformed collapse into control, observation into dominance. Across the void, the remnants of the Zinthari civilization were under human command, not through firepower but through insight, patience, and ruthless calculation. Kale's flagship orbited the central Zinthari planet. Lynn monitored neural echoes, confirming the final vestiges of coordinated thought had disintegrated. "Their civilization is frozen," she said. "They cannot recover without their network." Human crews deployed systems to preserve and study every fragment, turning alien collapse into human advantage. Kale turned to the bridge crew, voice low and precise. "We've converted knowledge into supremacy," he said, "insight into dominance, patience into conquest." Around him, the fleet moved with perfect discipline, a reflection of humanity's mastery over intellect and the fragile architecture of alien thought. The galaxy had learned the ultimate lesson: understanding is the deadliest weapon. Kale's fleet swept through the outermost Zinthari sectors. Lynn monitored lingering psychic distortions, faint and fragmented. "They're trying to re-establish connections," she said, "but it's futile." Every failed attempt confirmed the complete collapse of their network. Human drones intercepted and stabilized rogue nodes, turning confusion into order. Kale's voice was steady, almost cold. "Their greatest strength, unity, has become their undoing," he said. Humanity had mastered patience and insight, converting alien failure into strategic supremacy. The galaxy had witnessed the art of war redefined. Dominance not through destruction, but through understanding the architecture of a mind. Vela's squadron moved through fractured orbital lanes, corralling straggler alien vessels. Drones guided them into human custody. "Even their most experienced commanders are disoriented," she reported. The void, once a theater of precision and psychic coordination, was now a human domain. Every movement was deliberate, every advantage exploited. Kale studied the tactical display. "Observation is lethal," he said. "Intellect can disarm more effectively than any missile." Across the galaxy, humanity had transformed collapse into dominance, insight into control. The Zinthari were no longer a threat. Their civilization was frozen, and the lesson of their hubris was written in every failing node. Kale ordered the fleet to deploy permanent monitoring arrays. Lynn tracked neural remnants, analyzing fractured patterns for intelligence extraction. "They cannot organize," she said. "Every attempt to communicate ends in chaos." Humanity's victory extended beyond the battlefield. It was a conquest of cognition itself. Kale's gaze was unwavering. "Knowledge is supremacy," he said softly. Human engineers transformed the remnants of the Zinthari network into tools for future strategy. Insight had become the deadliest weapon, and patience had become its executioner. The galaxy had witnessed a new paradigm: victory through comprehension rather than destruction. Vela's squadron intercepted the final alien vessels attempting weak formations. Drones guided them into containment fields, ensuring no further conflict. "They're functional, but meaningless," she reported. The Zinthari fleet, once a single-minded organism, was reduced to scattered, powerless fragments. Kale's voice was calm and deliberate. "Their empire was built on consensus," he said. "Without insight, consensus is fragile." Human crews moved with flawless coordination, exploiting gaps that no alien mind could repair. The void bore witness to a chilling truth. Dominance is achieved not through firepower, but through understanding the mind of your enemy. Kale's flagship hovered over the central Zinthari capital. Lynn's screens displayed the final traces of coherent thought, fading into nothing. "They cannot recover," she said quietly. Human crews deployed systems to secure every neural hub, preserving intelligence while preventing reconstruction. The Zinthari civilization teetered on the brink of permanent collapse. Kale turned from the viewport, voice low and precise. "We have converted knowledge into supremacy, insight into dominance," he said. Around him, the fleet moved with perfect synchronization, a reflection of humanity's mastery over intellect and the fragile architecture of alien thought. In the silent void, the lesson was absolute. Understanding is the deadliest weapon, and humanity had mastered it completely. Kale's fleet established permanent orbital stations around the largest Zinthari worlds. Lynn monitored faint psychic flickers, isolated minds trying to reconnect, but failing. "They're awake, but disoriented," she said. Human engineers deployed stabilizers, preventing accidental collapse while cataloging every fragment of alien thought. Kale's voice was calm, measured. "Insight is a weapon," he said. Humanity had transformed psychic collapse into strategic dominance. Across the void, every surviving Zinthari mind was under observation, every misaligned impulse cataloged. The galaxy had seen a civilization toppled not by bombs, but by intellect, patience, and calculated understanding. Vela's squadron patrolled orbital corridors, guiding isolated alien vessels into containment zones. Drones ensured compliance without unnecessary destruction. "They're trying to coordinate," she said, "but every signal collapses under interference." The once mighty fleet was now a disjointed collection of confused minds, vulnerable and inert. Kale observed from the flagship. "Unity without comprehension is fragility," he said. Human crews moved like a single organism, exploiting gaps invisible to the enemy. Every fragment of Zinthari cognition became a tool for intelligence gathering. Dominance was complete not by force alone, but through observation, insight, and the ruthless precision of strategy. Salvage teams retrieved neural cores and damaged vessels for study. Lynn translated corrupted psychic patterns into usable data, mapping flaws in the Zinthari network. "Every misstep is an advantage," she said. Human scientists cataloged failures to anticipate potential future threats. Kale's voice was quiet, deliberate. "Knowledge is conquest," he said. Human forces had transformed destruction into opportunity, turning chaos into order. Across the galaxy, every fragment of alien civilization became a lesson in strategy, a reminder that dominance could be engineered through intellect as effectively as through firepower. Kale's fleet reinforced orbital stations, securing control over Zinthari colonies. Rogue transmissions flickered weakly, failing to coordinate. Vela's pilots monitored every signal, ensuring no resurgence of unity. "They're shells," she reported. "Without their network, they cannot function." The void was silent except for human engines. Efficient, disciplined, dominant. Kale's eyes scanned the fleet. "Their greatest strength became their greatest vulnerability," he said. Humanity had converted collapse into control, insight into supremacy. Across the galaxy, the lesson was clear. Understanding a civilization's mind is more decisive than overwhelming it with force. The Zinthari had been broken, and humanity had claimed mastery. Kale's flagship hovered over the central Zinthari capital. Lynn analyzed the last coherent neural signals, noting their final dissolution. "They cannot recover," she said softly. Human crews deployed systems to secure every neural hub, preserving intelligence for future strategic advantage. The remnants of Zinthari civilization were frozen, leaderless, and dependent. Kale turned from the viewport, voice measured. "We have converted understanding into dominance," he said. Around him, the fleet moved with perfect precision, a reflection of humanity's mastery over intellect and fragile alien networks. In the silent void, the galaxy learned a cold lesson. The mind, when understood, is the ultimate weapon, and humanity had mastered it completely. Kale's fleet established full control over the outer Zinthari colonies. Lynn monitored residual psychic activity, isolated minds flickering like dying stars. "They're awake, but powerless," she said. Human drones stabilized infrastructure while cataloging every fragment of alien thought. Civilization itself hung in fragile suspension. Kale's voice was calm, deliberate. "Insight is power," he said. Humanity had weaponized understanding, transforming collapse into dominance. Across the void, every scattered Zinthari mind was now under human observation. The galaxy had witnessed the subtle but absolute conquest of intellect over instinct, strategy over chaos. Vela's squadron patrolled orbital lanes, corralling remaining alien vessels. Drones guided them into containment zones. "Even their leaders are disoriented," she reported. Without their psychic network, coordination was impossible. Every move was ineffective, every attempt at resistance futile. Kale studied the tactical display. "Strength without insight is vulnerability," he said. Human forces moved like a single organism, exploiting gaps invisible to the enemy. Every fragment of alien cognition became intelligence, every failure a tool. Dominance had been earned not through firepower, but through understanding and precise execution. Kale ordered permanent surveillance arrays across Zinthari systems. Lynn monitored neural residues, recording corrupted patterns for analysis. "They cannot rebuild," she said. The civilization was frozen, fragmented, and entirely dependent on human oversight. Knowledge had become control. Insight had become supremacy. Kale's eyes swept the void. "Observation is lethal," he said softly. Humanity had converted alien collapse into advantage, patience into strategy, understanding into dominance. The void itself bore witness. Intelligence, when applied ruthlessly and carefully, is the deadliest weapon of all. Kale's flagship orbited the central Zinthari capital. Vela's squadron secured the last rogue vessels. "Their fleet is shattered beyond repair," she said. Psychic networks flickered weakly, unable to coordinate even minor maneuvers. The void, once a battleground of precision and hive mind efficiency, was silent under human command. Kale turned to the bridge crew. "Their unity was their strength," he said. "We turned it into their weakness." Human engineers stabilized systems while analysts extracted every fragment of knowledge. The galaxy had learned a cold truth. Mastery of the mind is more decisive than mastery of firepower, and humanity had done both flawlessly. Kale's fleet formed a perfect orbital pattern above the Zinthari homeworld. Lynn monitored the final neural residues, noting their complete dissolution. "They cannot recover," she whispered. Human crews deployed containment systems, securing every node of alien intelligence for study and future dominance. Kale's voice was measured, resolute. "We have transformed weakness into supremacy, observation into conquest, patience into domination," he said. Around him, the fleet moved as one, disciplined, precise, and unassailable. In the silent void, humanity had proven a chilling lesson. Understanding the mind is the ultimate weapon, and in that mastery, absolute power resides. The galaxy had changed forever. The end. Thank you for watching AstroMyths. If you enjoyed this story, smash that like button and subscribe for more epic sci-fi tales, cosmic mysteries, and mind-bending myths. And if you like this story or have a myth, mystery, or galaxy you'd like us to explore, drop your ideas in the comments. We're always listening. Until next time, keep your eyes on the stars and your mind open to the unknown.